How to feel connected with your avoidant partner without feeling clingy in your anxious-avoidant relationship. This video is for you if you have an anxious attachment style where you crave closeness but they want space. I'll share with you today why you feel needier in air quotes than others, the biggest mistakes in meeting your needs for connection that actually creates more disconnection in your relationship, 3 ways to meet your need for connection without feeling clingy, and stick around for the end because I'll share the most underrated skill that changed everything and how you can really meet your need for connection in your relationship. I used to feel like the more I tried to get close to my partner, the more he pulled away. For me, love wasn't just about being in my relationship, it was about deep emotional connection, feeling safe, feeling seen, and really emotionally close, but also physically. So before actually I became securely attached, I always wanted to be around my partner 24/7. I wondered what he was up to all the time, and when we were in conflict, it felt terrible and unbearable. And I'll never forget the time when he kind of kicked me out of his room when we were living together in a flat share over like a little disagreement. And this felt like this huge rejection of me as a person. And I felt ashamed. I took it personal. Please tell me you can relate to any of this. If you are not emotionally or physically connected, it might feel like this huge threat in the relationship. You might be wondering, are they still into me? Do they still even like me? Why do they not want to be with me? And you feel really rejected and unwanted and not a priority. Maybe you then start to spiral and think, why are they so distant? Did I say something wrong? Am I too much? Are they losing, interest in me? What the heck is happening? And it's not really just about physically when they pull away. It's even in these little moments when they distracted on their phone, when they're just being quiet after work or stressed, when they seem lost in their thought, when they go out with friends and they don't check in, or when they're coming home later than they said they would, when they're busy at work and they don't reply for hours. And your brain might go into overdrive, trying to get certainty. Your body feels on edge all the time. You start reaching for reassurance because if you don't feel connected, somehow something feels off and your brain thinks, oh my God, this is dangerous. Your partner might already start to withdraw and they might losing interest and they're going to leave you. And what if? So then you kind of check in, ask, hey, is everything okay? Are we good? You try to get closer and closer and kind of micromanage them maybe, or you're hypervigilant, keeping watching your partner's every move and action, but instead of getting closer, they withdraw. They say they need space, they seem distracted or irritated, they act less affectionate, less engaged, shutting down more, and the cycle continues. And now you're in this full-blown anxiety mode, overthinking the worst-case scenarios. Your brain is screaming, something is wrong, I can feel it, I can sense it, I know it. You feel desperate, panicked, and rejected. Does this sound familiar? If yes, you're not alone. I have been there, my clients have been there, and this is so normal in this anxious-avoidant relationship dynamic. By the way, hi, I'm Yula. I'm the Anxious to Secure coach, and welcome to the Anxious to Secure podcast. A few years ago, I was really trapped in this anxious, avoidant, push and pull dynamic with my partner in London. And by the way, this is part 4 of the 8-part Meet Your Relationship Needs series. Today, we're talking about the number 1 unmet need for the anxious attacher, which is the need for connection and love. Before we dive in deeper, let me share with you the biggest mistake anxious attached people make when they're trying to fulfill their main need in their relationship, which is the need for connection and love. When you're trying to get your need met externally instead of realizing it's your own need to address first within yourself, you're setting yourself up for disconnection, the opposite of what you wanted to achieve in the first place. The thought that this need is something someone else gives you makes complete sense, but it's something that you need to build it in with yourself first. Why is that? Because it's rooted in your past. So when you outsource your need for connection to just your partner, you put this immense pressure on them to meet your need and to be your everything, your entire world. It creates anxiety for yourself whenever they're not being available, and also it creates this huge pressure for your partner. It sets up this dynamic where your emotional state depends on their behavior. Actually, it pushes them away with this intensity, and it kind of puts them in the role of being your caretaker or your therapist or your parent. And this is why the more desperate you seek connection from your avoidant partner, the more they retreat. Your approach to meeting this need is creating the exact opposite of what you want. For someone who has an anxious attachment style, there are 3 primarily unmet needs in relationships that you're trying to fulfill all the time. So first is the need of love and connection. Then there is the need of certainty. That's why we overthink and really need to know what's happening in the future. The third one is the need for significance, the need for validation and for approval, to feel seen and heard. By the way, shout out if you want a deeper dive into these relationship needs, check out part 2 of the series, identifying your top 2 unmet needs. To check which ones are your top unmet needs, the secret to stop self-sabotage. That's also a 3-minute needs quiz. Check out the free attachment library with all other resources as well. Our brains are wired to get these needs met in the fastest way possible, but sometimes that's where the sabotage happens. Let's talk about this. Back in my relationship, I craved a lot of emotional closeness in my anxious-avoidant relationship back then, while he needed kind of the opposite. So space, freedom, choice, and independence, which sent me a lot of times into overthinking, wondering, are we a good match? And all of this started happening after our honeymoon phase, because in our honeymoon phase, we were all very close and on top of each other. But after this, he kind of started needing more space and I was more on top of him, and we both kind of trapped each other in our fears. I analyzed everything. The more he pulled away, the more I needed to close the gap. And the more I reached out, the more he withdrew. And this is called the anxious-avoidant relationship cycle, or also called trap. It's a push and pull dynamic where you, as someone with the anxious attachment style, needs and craves closeness, reassurance, emotional connection, physical connection. But your avoidant partner maybe craves space or independence, emotional regulation through distance. Distance is safe, while you feel safe through your other people, through your partner, through closeness. So when you then feel they might pull away or shut down, you feel completely anxious. You feel this is not safe. They might abandon you. You feel disconnected. But the more you try to reconnect, the more they then feel overwhelmed and withdraw, which of course makes you panic even more. What changed everything for me was when I stopped focusing and fixating on the relationship and my partner and started healing on my own anxious attachment style. I realized that my deep need for closeness wasn't wrong, but it was more amplified because of my need, of my void I was trying to fulfill through my partner. I was trying to see my partner as the hero who had to step up and to fill my unmet childhood needs. So anxious attachment makes you feel your partner needs to meet your emotional needs, like they need to make up for everything in your childhood that the inner child didn't get. And I want to point out my childhood was good overall and I was fine. I was still a highly sensitive kid who often felt really scared and overwhelmed and sensitive, and I didn't know how to self-soothe or how to cope with my emotions. And when I was crying a lot of times in my room, and I didn't really fit in school, so in my relationships I looked then for my partner to do this for me. The problem is my partner's not there to parent me, to take care of my emotions. I need to do this for me now. I'm old enough to take care of my emotions, to learn all of these tools for myself. And once I stopped attaching my sense of safety to my partner's actions, I healed my own wounds more and more. And of course, it takes time and repetition. But over time, I was able to show up for myself and create this secure, safe place within myself. And that over time changed everything. when you realize your partner's not there to make you feel secure, but you can create this security within yourself. So for people with an anxious attachment style, love and connection never really felt safe or consistent enough. So maybe you had parents who gave you love and were very warm and loving, but emotionally more inconsistent, only gave you attention when you were very struggling, or when you were crying and were playing up, or when you were very loud and crying for attention. Maybe they were very busy, or they were very overwhelmed with a lot of other things in their life, with work or with your siblings, or distracted or just unavailable at times. So as a child, you learned to work hard for connection. You became hyper aware of people's moods, or try to be good, the good child, so you wouldn't lose love. And because of this, your nervous system became wired to seek closeness as a survival strategy. And then you outsourced your need for love and connection to other people, especially romantic relationships, especially romantic partners, because our romantic partner reflects the most the relationship we had to our parents. And this is often why you then need your partner to reassure you, to validate you, to show they love you in a certain way, so you don't feel rejected or alone or unsafe. It's not just a want, it's a huge emotional need that your brain has linked to your safety. So, and this is also why you feel needier in air quotes than other people. Because people with a secure attachment style don't obsess over closeness in the same way as you might do. And for a long time, I couldn't understand why my need for love felt so much bigger than other people's, until I realized my need for connection wasn't actually about my partner. It was about an unmet emotional void from my childhood. I was looking for my partner to prove that I was lovable, fill my emotional gaps I didn't get fully met as a kid, regulate my anxiety for me. And then when they couldn't do this 24/7, I felt abandoned because my inner child was still waiting for the love she never really fully got, because I was crying alone in my room and I didn't always get the comfort I kind of needed in that moment. Again, just as a side note, I had a good childhood. I was just very hypersensitive, and my allergies as well in my first month of when I was born made me think, oh my God, my parents don't care for me. They don't give me the safety I needed, even though that wasn't true. But that's a topic of another episode. So what happens now when you're unaware of your subconscious need for connection? When you don't recognize that your subconscious is desperately trying to meet your need for connection, it finds ways to get it anyway. That's really, really important to talk about, because often through behaviors that actually push your partner further away. This is key to understand. No matter what your need is, your subconscious tries to fulfill it in the fastest way possible, regardless of long-term consequences. So think of it like as you crave comfort, but you eat chocolate and it gives you the immediate relief, but tomorrow you will feel not just guilty, but for the next months you will have extra kilos because you didn't just eat a few pieces of chocolate, you probably ate 2 bars of chocolate, right? So in the moment, your need is met for comfort, but the long-term consequences are still there, and your brain ignored that. The same thing happens in your relationship. Your subconscious tries to get your connection needs met right now, even if those behaviors push your partner away. Let's give you some examples. When you are not aware of this need for connection, you might find yourself seeking a lot of togetherness or being very clingy in a relationship. And repeatedly, when they don't respond and you're unable to stop yourself from texting again and calling again, maybe also you're starting arguments just for the sake of being close and connected with this person, better than having this silent in your relationship. Maybe oversharing too early in relationships just to create this huge emotional connection. Maybe you're trying to mind read their intentions and creating stories in your head, or you're emotionally flooding them when they don't engage enough, or you're trying to fix their problems to feel needed, or you're sacrificing your own boundaries to maintain closeness. closeness. Yes, and I did all of these things myself in either my romantic relationship with my partner or friendships or people I just met. Yes, I could write an entire book about it or record an episode about this. And I remember one time my partner needed space after an argument, and instead respecting that, I followed him around and tried to people please myself out of this because this disconnection was unbearable for me and I felt so uncomfortable, and I just tried to be okay with him again and make up for things and just resolve things right now. But my partner really needed space, so it just made everything worse. And the thing is, these behaviors don't create genuine connection, they create pressure, and you're not even fully yourself when you're just trying to people please after an argument. You're ignoring your own boundaries and your own self-respect, and you're just agreeing on things. You're not even respecting yourself in that moment just to keep the peace. And when your avoidant partner feels pressured, they will pull away even more, creating exactly what you feared: disconnection. That's why awareness is the first step to breaking the cycle. When you recognize these patterns for what they are, unconscious attempts to meet your deep emotional need, you can then start meeting your need in healthier ways. By the way, if you're constantly overthinking in your relationship with your avoidant partner, you are not alone as well. And I used to do this all the time. Your subconscious mind is actually trying to protect you in its attempt to fulfill your deep need for certainty and safety by overthinking. For someone who has an anxious attachment style, it's attempting to fulfill your deep need for certainty and safety by overthinking, predicting potential problems, and trying to ensure your partner won't leave. I was the same thing. I worried about everything. I analyzed every text and every behavior shift, every mood shift. My brain was working overtime trying to protect me, because our survival instinct cares more about protection than happiness. But if you want to work on this habit, this very nasty habit on overthinking your relationships in 4 steps with your avoidant partner, I have created a mini course. It's still on beta round, meaning it's very reduced. It's in its first draft, meaning it's very imperfect. And the best news is I'm able to coach you still in emails. So if you ask me any questions or challenges you have, I'm able to give you feedback regarding any topics related to overthinking. So make use of this for the reduced price, because at the end of this year latest, I will go over this course. I will update everything. I will add more modules, or I will record everything again, and then the price will go up. So if you want to stop overthinking your relationships in 4 steps with your avoidant partner, grab the link in the description or below the YouTube video and check out the mini course. So now let's talk about the 3 ways how you can get your need for connection and love met in relationships through healthy ways without clinging. And step number 1 is meet your need for connection through yourself first. And yes, you will maybe roll your eyes, and I did this first, and this sounds very boring and not self-fulfilling, but this will change everything once you apply this over a couple of weeks and months. But you have to really apply these action steps. So your most important relationship is with yourself. When you're anxious, your nervous system goes into fight or flight, but self-soothing practices literally changes your brain's chemistry. Ask yourself, do I give myself the love and connection I crave from my partner? Do I self-soothe or wait for them to calm me? If I don't feel connected to my partner, ask yourself, do I feel connected to myself first? When you heal the relationship with yourself first, you heal the connection with other people as well at the same time. Some examples are, you can journal. Instead of anxious texting your partner or people, process your emotions first in writing. Do a thought transfer on transferring all of your thoughts on a piece of paper or in your journal. Nature, connect with nature, connect with something larger than yourself. Self-talk is very important as well. Practice positive self-talk that is really encouraging yourself to think either more neutral or more positive thoughts about yourself. Be kinder to yourself. Number 2 is the second step is how to meet your needs for connection in a relationship is outsource your connection to multiple sources, not just through this one person. No single person can meet all of your needs, all of your emotional needs. This is crucial to understand. By finding connection from multiple sources, you build the foundation of security that doesn't depend solely on your partner. Try it through friendships, hobbies, or even pets. Create space to feel heard without the pressure of romance. You don't have to create this huge friendship circle. It's enough if you just expand it by 1 or 2 people more. You can reach out to old friendships, maybe one from your childhood days, one from your study days, and one from your time right now. Someone you always felt very deeply connected, also detached from friends who are not adding to your life, who you feel like you have to be fake around. Spend less energy around them and pour more into friendships who are really good and nurture them more. And also reach out to more people. Don't be shy to be rejected. A rejection isn't about you, it's about them. Hobbies as well. Do things that make you feel alive and release dopamine naturally. And maybe then through these new hobbies, then you can connect to other people as well. Pets. I don't know if you're a pet person, this is also connection, how you can learn to self-soothe, experience unconditional connection without explaining or justifying. And now the third step, how to build more connection in a relationship, is let your partner be the extra and not a must. So your partner should be a bonus on top of your relationship, not the only way how to meet your need for connection and love. So when I started my inner work, everything changed. I stopped needing constant reassurance. I learned to self-soothe when I felt anxious. My partner felt less pressure when I made them naturally want to connect more with me. I stopped chasing them and created more space. I supported my partner's need for traveling, on what he wanted to do, rather than clinging onto him and trying to avoid him traveling and exploring his needs and his hobbies. And the best part is, I stopped feeling like my world would explode and collapse if our relationship would ever fall apart, or if my partner would ever stop loving me, which made us even stronger. And connection in your relationship happens really through everyday tiny little moments. When your partner says something and you're looking up from your phone instead of just or just ignoring what they say, or just building really little rituals of connection every week. It doesn't have to be this dinner date. For me, I feel very connected when I go on our weekly shopping drive to the supermarket. We play music, we sing to silly songs to Barbie and Ken. We just really connect through silly everyday moments in our special way. When do you feel most connected to your partner, and how can you create these with more ease rather than forcing it? And how does your partner feel more connected to you? Because as someone who has an avoidant attachment style, they might feel most connected with you after they had some space. For example, my partner often feels even more connected during the weekend. We both do our thing, but then we come together and then go for a walk or have a coffee and do something together. But you don't only want to just think about how you feel most connected to your partner, but also how your partner feels most connected to you. And then through tiny little things over these big moments of connection. And now I promise you the most underrated skill is sitting with discomfort. When you're anxious attached, distance feels threatening, right? Feels like you're not connected anymore. You feel like this is a threat in our relationship. So your brain registered your partner's need for space as something like very personal, as rejection, triggering your anxious-avoidant cycle. You notice distance and panic. You pursue closeness and reassurance. They feel then pressured and withdraw more. And then you chase harder and they retreat further. But how can you break this cycle? And the secret is really here, learning to sit with discomfort without making it mean something bad about you, your partner, or your relationship, or the future of your relationship. In daily life, when your partner's quiet, distracted, or needs space, Your instinct says danger. But what if they're just being themselves and they still love you, even when they're close or shutting down or they need space? What if they're still deeply committed to you in 20, 30 years? And silence doesn't mean rejection. Silence just means silence. Your brain equates space with abandonment because of past experiences. But the truth is, space is not a rejection. It's just unfamiliar to your nervous system. But space is very familiar to your partner's nervous system. So it feels very comfortable for them. So practice these 3 steps. First, name the feeling. I feel anxious when they're quiet. Naming it reduces the power. You can also say a part of me feels anxious. Then 2, question your story, the meaning you have added to this situation. Is there actual evidence of my abandonment? Are they actually going to leave me? Are they actually rejecting me right now? Do they actually not want to be with me right now? Or could this be about their needs, not about my worth or about our relationship, about our future of our relationship? 3, breathe and reassure yourself. I am safe even when I feel uncomfortable. This moment doesn't last forever. I'll be okay in a few minutes. And you just breathe through it. And giving yourself the security you're seeking externally is everything. And you just sit there with a feeling, and you can even just do a little body scan and see, you know what, okay, your heart's increasing a little bit, but after a few moments will pass. You've survived this. And the more times you do this, you realize, you know what, it feels very uncomfortable, it feels very icky, you might be sweating, your heart might be racing, but over time, the more often you do this, you teach your brain it's uncomfortable, but discomfort is not death. Discomfort doesn't mean anything bad, and you'll become more and more empowered. When you practice this, you discover that distance is not a rejection, it's not dangerous, uncertainty is not abandonment, and genuine connection happens when you stop chasing. So if you take one thing away from this episode, let it be this one. Your need of love and connection is not wrong, but it feels very urgent and very overwhelming. It's probably because you're outsourcing it from your partner instead of meeting it within yourself first. And when you learn to fill your own bucket first, everything else will feel lighter and safer, more secure, no matter what your partner does. Let me know what you thought of this episode on the YouTube comments, and be sure to check out the last episode of this final series on how to stop abandoning yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode. Remember, change in your relationship starts with you, thought by thought, action by action, and now episode by episode. I see you in the next one. Bye bye, Yula.